Have you ever noticed someone who works half as much as everyone else, yet gets better results? They ignore half their to-do list. They take long breaks. They say no constantly. People call them lazy, but psychologists have been studying this for decades, and what they found changes everything. These people aren't lazy. They're practicing what researchers call strategic disengagement. And the same traits that got them labeled unmotivated in school are exactly what makes them successful later. In a world that glorifies busyness, these people seem like underachievers. They didn't raise their hand in every class. They didn't do extra credit. They questioned why assignments mattered. Teachers called them unfocused, distracted, lazy. But psychology says this wasn't lack of ability. It revealed a completely different operating system, one that schools weren't designed to measure. Selective engagement over blind compliance. Psychologists say people with this thinking style have what's called high cognitive autonomy. That means they evaluate whether something deserves their energy before committing to it. They're not lazy. They simply refuse to waste effort on low-value tasks. While other students memorize facts for tests and forgot them a week later, these thinkers asked a different question. Will this actually matter? Educational psychologist John Holt studied this for years. He found that the students teachers called unmotivated weren't disengaged from learning. They were disengaged from busy work. They had an internal filter most people never develop, and that filter becomes their greatest asset in the real world, where 80% of tasks don't move the needle. Efficiency over effort. Research on productive laziness shows that people who avoid unnecessary work often have superior pattern recognition. They spot the shortest path to a goal. They see which steps can be skipped. They understand leverage. This is called strategic thinking in business, but in school, it was called cutting corners. Developers call it elegant code. Writers call it economy of language. Entrepreneurs call it the 80-20 principle. But your 10th grade teacher called it not trying hard enough. The difference? These thinkers optimize for results, not appearances. They don't need to look busy to feel productive. They measure success by output, not hours logged. And that makes them unemployable in traditional systems, but invaluable when they work for themselves. Big picture focus, not detail obsession. People with this cognitive style are often divergent thinkers. That's a term psychologist J.P. Guilford used to describe people who see multiple solutions, make unexpected connections, and think in systems rather than steps. Schools are built for convergent thinking. One right answer, follow the formula, stay in the lines. But divergent thinkers can't function that way. They see 10 possible approaches and want to explore the most interesting one, not the one the teacher assigned. NASA studied this. They tested creativity in children and found that 98% of 5-year-olds scored at genius level for divergent thinking. By age 10, only 30%. By age 15, 12%. School systematically trains it out of us. But some people resist that training. They stay big picture. They stay curious. And 30 years later, they're the ones building companies, while their A student classmates are still following someone else's playbook. Intrinsic motivation over external rewards. Research on self-determination theory shows that people driven by internal motivation outperform those chasing external validation in the long run. But schools run entirely on external motivation. Gold stars, grades, honor roll, teacher approval. For some students, that system works. They do the assignment because the teacher said to. They study because there's a test. But strategic thinkers never bought into that system. They only engaged when something genuinely interested them, when the work itself was the reward. Teachers saw defiance. Psychologists see autonomy. In school, that looks like a problem. In entrepreneurship, it's the only thing that works. Nobody's giving you a grade for showing up. Nobody's assigning your next project. You have to be internally driven, or you'll quit the first time it gets hard. The people who succeeded without external rewards in school are the same ones who don't need a boss to stay motivated at 45. So next time you meet someone who got called lazy in school, but built something impressive later, don't assume they finally got their act together. They didn't change. The environment did. They're more strategic, more efficient, and more autonomous than most people grinding through someone else's checklist. They don't need to be busy to be productive. And that's real intelligence. If you love understanding why people really think and behave, hit subscribe. Because we don't just accept labels here, we decode what's really happening underneath them.